Here's a story about how a simple request can become a gruesome mess. Such extreme surgery may hurl away many carpenters, but to the timber tailor, it's just another day at the office.
Yeah. Well, the reason for the project was I'm doing a bathroom remodel.
FrankenDoor was born from a seemingly innocent bathroom remodel.
The existing bathroom had a 24-inch door.
And they wanted to widen it to 30 inches.
If I could have gone to the lumberyard or anywhere really and ordered a new 30-inch door that was made out of vertical grain hem-fir that had a pattern that was similar to this, I would have just bought another door, stuck it in, and taken these down to restore.
Turns out, looking for vertical grain hem-fir doors around Rapid City, it's like looking through a ghost town. The good news? 2 existing specimens were available to carve up for parts.
After realizing that all I had to work with was these 2 existing doors, I thought, how can I chop these up and end up with a door that's 6 inches wider?
Timber Tailor drew a surgical map.
The green pieces are what I saved from the original 6-panel door. And all the white lines are all the glue splices that I ended up doing.
To make the raised panels wide enough, he ripped panels from the 6-panel door in half and grafted meat to the middle by carving off the beveled edges of the 3-panel door.
The outside edges are from the original 6-panel door, and the middle strips are from the original 3-panel door.
But grafting thin old bones isn't like gluing up a butcher block.
They were, barely 7/16 of an inch thick, and you put the kind of clamping pressure they need, and no matter what you do, they're going to fold under the clamp. So I just, out of some junk 2x4s, I made some slotted pieces so when I clamped those panels, they wouldn't buckle when I put the clamping pressure to them. It's all vertical grain, so the grain matched up pretty good. I mean, as good as any of the original panels were. So I saved the 2 good rails from the 6-panel door, plus the center bars from the 6-panel door.
From the smaller door, he was able to chop down the vertical stiles into horizontal rails for FrankenDoor. The top 2 rails required only minor modification, but the bottom rail required more invasive surgical tactics.
The rail where the lock set goes, I took 2 pieces, almost the full width of those old stiles, cut them in half, jointed them, put them together so that when I glued them up, they'd end up the same width as the existing one was. For the bottom rail, that one really got crazy.
Building up 10 inches of meat meant combining an arm, a leg, and the pelvic region with its telltale knob hole. He strategically carved the parts so that
I had the absolute minimum of the lock set hole left to patch in.
Cutting a cheek from the leftover pelvis and grafting it into the hole will help hide the evidence of this surgery. To match the profile on the stiles, Matt coped the ends by nibbling away with
a blade on the table saw to act like a dado blade for the square notches, and then I found a core box bit that matched that radius pretty nicely. And so with the number of passes on each end of each of those rails, I was able to mimic it. That worked out pretty darn good, actually. I was pleased. The original door was put together with some pretty good dowels. It was a good setup, but I didn't want to have to reduplicate everything. So instead of using a lot of dowels and a little bit of glue, I used no dowels and a lot of glue. So my first glue up was to glue the rails with those center stiles. There's so much going on with all the pieces of the door, I didn't attempt to glue the whole thing up at once. And there was a little bit of twist in the door. So the extra clamps at the top and the bottom are to make sure that the 2 side stiles were in the same plane as everything else. I originally thought that I'd be able to clamp this thing up and do most of this work without having to restain the door.
But that's not how it unfolded.
But as it turned out,
there was a lot of sanding to do.
When they made the original panels, they just threw them through a thickness sander or something like that. And so The segments I had were all different thicknesses.
A belt sander over the entire surface may scrape the face of this experiment down to fresh skin, but FrankenDoor's blotchy past still shows through.
There's smudges in there because the original stain soaked into that grain pretty well. It must have been pretty thin stain, and they wouldn't have used any stain conditioner. But because I got to restain it basically the same color, I didn't have to worry about getting those smudges out of there like I would have had to if I changed the color of the door. With the door on that rack, I can stain it up, work on evening the stain out the best I can. Then I use compressed air to blow in around the edges of the raised panels. If there's a little extra stain puddled in there, the compressed air blows it out so that when I flip the door over, it doesn't
bleed back out onto FrankenDoor's beautiful new face.